Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hall Simmer channel. It's great to be back with you. It's been a while. I am switching to Sundays, although I don't know exactly when I will be broadcasting on Sundays or each particular Sunday. So I will just, because of the way the schedule has changed for me. But I will try to do the best I can to be on, if not every Sunday, hopefully every other Sunday. What I'm going to do this week is talk about ground maneuvers. We're going to cover three particular ground maneuvers today. We're going to talk about doing a rectangular ground maneuver, a turn around a point, and then finally we're going to finish off with S-turns. Before we talk about ground maneuvers, what I want to do is give some background information, starting with the difference between two terms that you may have heard me reference. But up to this point, I don't think I have covered in much detail, and that is AGL and MSL. Now, MSL I've been referring to more often than not via the altimeter, or how high we are above, in this case, the ocean. So when I say MSL, I'm talking mean sea level, or my height above the ocean. And you see the example of the 5,000 feet MSL, where I have the altimeter showing 5,000 feet. And then you see a blue horizontal line that the blue arrow points to at the far left. And that horizontal line representing 5,000 feet above, or MSL, meaning above sea level. Then we have the blue line at 3,000 feet MSL, which is the blue horizontal line, which has an arrow pointing up to it. And that blue line is touching the top of the mountain. So we're pretending like that mountain is 3,000 feet MSL, or 3,000 feet above sea level. And then we have above ground level. So we see a green arrow representing above ground level. So what's happening there is we are 2,000 feet above ground level, because 5,000 feet minus 2,000 feet is 3,000 feet. So the top of the mountain is 3,000 feet, but we are an additional 2,000 feet above the ground, above the top of that, the highest point of that mountain. So therefore we are 2,000 feet AGL. I guess I forgot to put that in the image, but I hope that's clear enough. And those will be, the AGL will be referenced today as we talk about doing ground maneuvers here in this particular stream. And then, so I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about, as I reference another image, and that is ground speed, how the wind impacts ground speed. So if you're flying in a perfectly still day, and the wind is calm, your airspeed is going to match what you see on your airspeed indicator for the most part. So if we're flying at 100 knots, I know it says miles per hour here, but just pretend like it's knots. If we're flying at 100 knots, then our ground speed is going to be 100 knots because the winds are calm. But if you look at the middle portion of the graphic, if the wind is blowing directly behind us and pushing us along, and the wind is 20 miles an hour, and it's directly behind us, then what's going to happen, our airspeed indicator may be showing 100 knots, but we are actually moving across the ground at 120 knots, because you add 20 knots to the 100 to get your ground speed. So we're moving faster thanks to the wind. However, we all know that the wind can directly oppose you. So if you look at the bottom part of the image, you see that the wind is coming directly at us at 20 miles per hour. Therefore, again, if our airspeed indicator says 100 knots, we're going to subtract out 20 miles, because now 20 knots, because, or miles, because now the wind opposes us, so our ground speed is going to be 80 knots in this case. So you can see that, and of course, if the wind is coming at you, not directly in front of you, towards you, or directly behind you, and it comes into your aircraft at different angles, then it will vary, depending again on the speed of the wind and at what angle it's striking your aircraft. So we have that to keep in mind when it comes to doing ground maneuvers. The next particular, this is somewhat of a review. I've referenced this before when it comes to flying through the air. So I'm going to switch the image to this. So if you think of a boat and you're trying to get across a river, the river has a current coming in from, in this case, the left side, and you're trying to get to the dock straight ahead of you. If you point the boat directly toward the dock, you're not going to make the dock because the river current is going to push you downstream and you're going to miss the dock. So you have to compensate by angling the boat into the river current in order to meet the dock, and that's what this particular picture is showing you with this boat, that it's angled. And you do the same thing with your airplane. You always point the airplane, you crab it, in other words, into the wind in order to compensate for wind drift. Otherwise, you're going to drift off of course and you're not going to be where you want to be. So look at the, so we're going to add a few more pictures or graphics to make that even more clear. So you see in this case we have this particular aircraft. We see the wind direction in red, okay, and this is like a pattern around the airport. So if you're flying a rectangle around the airport, that's called a pattern. And we see that for aircraft A, to compensate and stay on the rectangle, it has to point into the wind. That's why it's pointing to the right, because the wind's coming from the right. Airplane B doesn't have to do anything because the wind is directly behind it. It may move faster across that particular segment of the rectangle, which is the downwind, but it's no crabbing required. Aircraft C, however, because the wind is coming in now off of its left side, it has to angle and crab into the left, into the wind, to stay on the rectangle. And then finally D, because the wind is, and that's, by the way, called base. And then D, it doesn't really have to crab because the wind's coming right at it. Now we know that the wind may come in at an angle, not directly as it's showing here. So I'm going to show yet another graphic, which I'm going to do here just a second. And we see here, because the wind is coming at an angle, airplane A, or the airplane at position A, is still having to crab to the right because the wind's still coming in from the right. It's coming in at a right angle, but it's still right. So aircraft A has to bank, B has to bank into the wind as well because of the wind direction. Airplane C, because it's coming in from the left, but kind of behind, but to the left, it's banked into the left, again because of the wind direction. And finally, D is also, again because it's coming in from the left side, banking into the wind. And so you see that you may have to crab the entire pattern because of the way the wind is. So we have that to deal with. Bear with me, pulling my notes up, make sure I cover everything. When we get ready to do these maneuvers, and before we do that, I'm going to remove the graphic out of sight momentarily. When we do the maneuvers, there is a bit of a checklist you want to be aware of. One of the things you want to make sure of is that your landing lights are on, and can't tell if ours are or not, but let's take a look. They are on. However, if you're not sure, for the Cessna 152, what you want to do is, if I remove the yoke temporarily, you see the landing light over here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You see that it is on. It's pushed in. It's on, of course, because we verified that already. The other thing is make sure your mixture is in, pushed in. And again, this is as you're getting ready to fly. We're still on the ground, of course, but you want to make sure that your mixture is rich. You want to basically fly at about 90 knots. So here's 80 knots, and this is 90 knots right here. So you want to fly at 90 knots. And also you want to make sure you're safely above the ground. About 1,000 feet above the ground is usually sufficient, or a bit higher. However, so that you can see the road more clearly, I'm only going to fly 700 feet AGL, or 700 feet above ground level. So right now at this airport, it looks like we're almost at 900 feet. It's like about 850 feet, but we'll just say 900, round it off. So we're going to fly at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to fly at about 1,600 feet to get over, just over 700 feet above ground level. So we'll fly at this point at 1,600 feet. The other thing is and we're not going to do this, I talked about clearing turns in one of our past streams, so you're welcome to reference the past streams and videos where I talked about clearing turns, where you want to check for traffic and make sure there's no traffic around you, including raising the wing on the side where you're going to do the turn. I'm not going to do all that today for sake of time, but I do want to mention that as a way of reminder, so that you have that as part of your checklist of things to do as you're getting ready to do the maneuvers. Now, I think, to do these, you want to find a flat area of the earth. I know that in the state of Illinois, there are a lot of flat areas and farmlands that form rectangles, because we're getting ready. The first maneuver we're going to do is the rectangular pattern. So let me pull that up real quick since we're on that topic, and let's look at that just for a second. So got that on there, and what we see here is the pattern. And what will happen is you will enter the pattern just like you do at an airport. So this is really good to practice because you don't have air traffic to worry about. You can get comfortable with practicing the pattern by using the rectangular ground maneuver here as seen here. So you'll enter, you see a plane. You'll have the wind blowing behind you when you start out, sort of, but you're coming in at a 45-degree angle. So you see the aircraft on the left side is coming in at a 45. You do this often at an airport. And then you will fly downwind where the wind is behind you. And notice on the lower left, you have to make a steeper bank, because first of all, the ground speed is at its highest because the wind's behind you. So you have to turn at a greater bank angle, and also more than 90 degrees, because when you come out of the turn, your plane has to be crabbed into the wind. So that's the comment in the lower left. When you're doing the crosswind and you're crabbed into the wind, you're going to then do a medium bank, the lower right corner, because you're going from the wind coming directly at you from the left side. but you're going to be turning into a situation where you're going to start slowing down because, again, remember the wind effect on ground speed. You're going to start slowing down. So you're going to have a medium bank, not have to be as sharp, and you're going to turn right, and it's going to be less than 90 degrees because you're already crabbed, right? A little bit to the left. So you're going to turn in the bank, and then you're going to be facing directly into the wind. In this case, which is how we're set up, by the way. Uh, we're going to be moving slower, but we'll move up to the right corner where we do a shallow bank because we are turning into the wind, and it'll be less than 90 degrees because we want to make sure we turn out of the bank where the plane is pointing into the wind. So we have a shallow bank and a less than 90 degree turn, and then you see the plane there at the top is going across what would be like base at the airport, and it's pointing into the wind. And then finally, the top left corner, you have a medium bank because, again, you're going to start turning with the wind coming behind you again, and you're going to turn more than 90 degrees because you're crabbing in such a way that you have to turn a little bit more than 90 degrees to um, stay on the rectangular pattern. So I wanted to show that. We are done, and then when we do the turns around a point, we'll show that. But right now, what I'm going to do is remove the graphic. And let me make sure we're getting sound, because the first time I did this, I lost sound. So let me test this one more time. Okay, I'm still talking. All right, so so what I've done, see off to the right, I have the windsock, and the wind is blowing from the north. I've set the wind at about 10 knots from the north. So you always take off into the wind. I'm going to turn off my parking brake, and we are good. I think we're ready to go. And again, I'm shooting for 1,600 feet MSL, or just over 700 feet above ground level. I think I got a notch of flaps in, so I'm going to go ahead and take off here. And then when I get about okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove I think I had a set of flaps in here. Yep. Go ahead and take those off, and we'll keep climbing. And what I'm going to do first is try to level off at 1,600 feet. And it might be a little bumpy today because I got those winds at 10 knots. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And you do want to remember on your simulator to set your winds first so that you're not flying in a calm day where you're not really challenged. Unless you want to keep it simple at first, which is nothing wrong with that. And just get used to flying without the wind, and then try flying with the wind. Boy, am I getting pushed around. So I will say that these maneuvers are very challenging to do with one monitor. So if you have two monitors, it's going to be better because you want one monitor on your altimeter and your instruments. Although you do want to be looking outside. But I find that because I'm having to look out left, I sometimes lose my altitude. Quite honestly, so I'm fighting the wind. So the other thing I want to do as I get close to this is pull the power back and shoot for the 90 knots. So I'm gonna pull the power back and wait till I get to let the airplane catch up as I pull back and try to get to 90 knots and then add a little power. We talked about that, but how to set your, and I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna apply some trim, which my trim is terrible because of the way my joystick is. But that's pretty good right there. Okay, now we got to find, so our next goal is to find a triangle, or something that looks like a triangle. So we got a nice straight stretch here. That looks good. Let's see if there's, this might work. Let's see if this, I'm just going to give it a look, right? I want to see if, I'm kind of happy this one might work. Let's try it. So what I'm going to do, and I hope this is without me looking, I'm going to actually try to also back off the, so I can see more. So I'm going to go further back because it's a challenge. Trust me, it's really a challenge. So what I want to do now, I think I found this triangle behind me. So I'm going to, and I want to come in. Right now I'm turning to the north, but I really want to come in where I'm facing south. So I am going to try to turn around here. You might notice I'm slowing down already because of the wind. Because I'm, and now as I turn, it'll start to pick up speed, but because I'm turning, I'll lose altitude. We talked about that too. Yeah, I think that one's going to work, I hope. So I am going to head west until I get a little bit past. Then I'm going to come in on the 45. That's a nice looking rectangle there, or square. But that's why I like this area. There's a lot of good options. So we're going to come in now at 45-degree angle, which means the end, if you look at the end, you'll see these little, get my mouse here, see these little triangles. The end is going to be right here. If you see that little white triangle right there, that's 45 degrees. So we have the, we're making our turn here. What's going to happen too is we're going to pick up, pushed. And we're almost there to where we can do our 45. Although, did I miss the, I want to do this one, I think. Oh, we got two. Let's try this one, see if this works. Okay. So we're coming in on the 45. The road's over there. So the wind is going to push us, right? It's going to push us. Hope I don't run out of road here. And now you see the road here, and because the wind is pushing us, we got to bank, and we've got to turn more than 90 degrees. And a little bit more than that because the wind's going to push us away. And I'm losing altitude. I'm really great at that. Again, it's hard to do in your simulator, but you may have to make adjustments. You can use the wind strut, that white bar, the wing strut, not the wind strut. So now we're at the corner, so I'm going to make another turn. Medium bank, the wind is pushing against us. You'll start to see, that's a word, start to see that we are slowing down. Look how much we're slowing down now. So this is really good because you can really see this. But because the wind's coming right at us right now, I'm a little further away from the road than I'd like to be, but because the wind's coming straight at us. And I need to climb too. We don't really have to do any crabbing or much crabbing because it's coming right at us, but we will slow down. And then we want to do a shallow turn because we're turning into the wind. So as we get ready to cross the road here, we start our turn again. And you're not gonna bank as much here. And because the wind is coming at us, the other thing we don't want to do is we want to crab into the wind. So we want to come out of the turn a little bit early so that we are crabbed a little bit to the right, like that. And again, we'll keep our eye ahead of us and also kind of at the road. And then I'm going to go up a little bit because I need to be at 1600. When we come to this road again, this is point is where we're going to start being pushed. So we're going to do a medium turn right here on the as we enter the downwind, and we are going to not have to crab at all in this case because this wind's coming from behind us. And again, I'm going too low. And it's probably easier to do this in the real world or with two monitors. I really get bad at it, especially with holding altitude, because I'm focused on this road over here. I have to turn the angle. Should probably keep the altimeter in my sight, but so finally, we're again, just to reiterate this, the wind's behind us. This is going to be a pretty good bank, steep bank, because the wind is pushing us now. And so we're going to have to do more than a 90 degree because we got to make sure that we're crabbing into the wind a bit. And you may have to make adjustments when you come out of the crab. You might have crabbed too much, whatever the case may be. And if you did, then, and I should be close to the road. I know it's hard to see, but that's part of practicing, right? I haven't done this in forever. I'm rusty, and so that is the rectangular pattern. Practice that. That gets you set up for the pattern that you'll fly around airports. So I'm going to, at this point, hit escape. I'm going to show the turns around a point. So that's this one. So it's on the screen now. So we have the wind coming at an angle. So what happens, you once again enter with the wind behind you in this particular ground maneuver that turns around a point. You'll notice because the wind's behind you when you start off, it's the steepest bank at the lower left there. So when you start the circle, you're going to be at your steepest bank because, again, your ground speed's the highest. So you got to always make your bank the steepest when the wind's behind you. And then what's going to happen as you work your way around the circle, you're going to gradually decrease the bank. So you see decreasing bank around that kind of that midpoint of the first half of the circle, decreasing. And then as you get into the wind, you're going to start to shallow your bank to the most shallowest point because you're taking the wind head on and moving the slowest in your ground speed. And then finally, you'll increase the bank again as you get about midway point, gradually increase the bank, where it says increasing bank there, until you get to the point where you have to make the steepest bank again to complete the circle because the wind's behind you. So this is the turns around a point and is the next maneuver that we will try. So let's give that a shot. Again, I struggle with some of these. You will probably too, unless you're better than I am and probably should teach us instead of me. But anyway, we're going to give it the old college try here. So I'm going to take off the image. And let's go back to the flight. Let's go for, there's a house. There's a house up, well, let's see, let's make sure I'm going, I want to go south. So, because I want the wind behind me in this maneuver. So let me see if I can find something. Something that is be good. So let's go with, there's a, I don't know if you see it above the nose of my aircraft. There's a, looks like a building or barn or something. That might be good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, actually there's this house. That's to the left of my wing. So let's shoot for that. So when we start this maneuver again, it's going to be our steepest turn, I hope. So we're there. All right, here we go. Well, actually, I need to make sure I can. Okay, so we're going to do a pretty steep bank. This is, see, I can't see the altimeter, so it's just going to have to make the best of it, which, so my bank, see, it's the wind's pushing, but as I go around, I'm going to decrease the bank so that when we are facing north, you start to decrease the bank a little more. And the challenge is trying to stay the same distance. Now, I'm still 1600 1600 MSL, which is good. So now it's shallow, right? And then, that's fortunate, I'm still even close to the altitude I should be at. So now we're going from south, so we are going to gradually start to increase the bank so that when we get to the other side, we'll be at our steepest bank. So where are we? We are at 1600 still, not too bad. That's fortunate. So there's we're starting to gradually increase our bank, trying to stay the same distance. I'm probably doing my circles too large, but trying to make the best of this one monitor situation. So now we're going to start getting pushed from behind. So we're going to want to increase our bank a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until we're at the point where the wind's directly behind us. This is the steepest bank. And then we're going to start to, once we cross that, we're going to start to gradually decrease the bank all over again. And again, I'm too far out of the house, but I hope you can see the house over there. So my circle probably looks like an oval. And that's, so you might want to make your circles tighter. So, for example, if I get over here, I'm not going to do the whole circle again, but so I didn't do it perfectly, right? I drifted, I think, away. So you probably want to be like this house over here that's by itself. trying to find it. This might be a little better. So I'm a little closer now. So where are we? I'm going to start shallowing the turn because we are heading to the north. So probably right about there is better. So you're not so far out like I was there. So shallowing, we're moving slowly, and then as we get past, we're going to start to increase and hopefully not pick up too much altitude. And that's a little better because we're closer. I was not way out there. Okay, so we're going to keep increasing. Now we're getting to the point where we're going to start picking up airspeed, so we're going to have to keep increasing. Trying to keep it equidistant this time and not blow off the circle. So now you see we're picking up airspeed, starting to pick up, and now we really increase our bank. And then once we get past that point, we start to gradually, right, decrease. So that's I want to hit escape here for a second. Also, I want to check the sound. Like I said, I did this first time, and the sound bombed out on me from my headset. So let me check this real quick. Testing, make sure I'm getting sound, which I hope. Check this. Yeah, it's coming in. Okay. I just don't want feedback as it turns around a point. The toughest one to do in your sim, I think, my personal opinion, is the S turns. And I'm going to look at that now. Okay, so we got the S turns. And again, we got the wind coming from behind when we enter the maneuver. So you see the blue wind arrow. It's coming from behind. We're moving at our fastest. So when you cross the road, you want to be wings level. Okay. And then as soon as you start your S turn, you want a steep bank because that's where your ground speed is the fastest. So you're going to turn. You're going to start moderating your bank at position 2. And then you're going to start to shallow your bank as you turn into the wind. That makes sense because it's like the 1/2 of the circle, right? You start to shallow the bank, wings level, crossing the road at 3. Going to still be in a shallow bank as you cross the road, as you go into the wind. And then you're going to start increasing your bank in position 4. Again, to compensate for the wind, to finally, as you start to come back into the position 5, the wind's coming back from behind you again. So you're going to be pushed, your ground speed's going to pick up, and you're going to need to steepen your bank and then cross the road, level out your wings, and do it all over again. So you just do several S's back and forth. What makes this challenging is you got to look at both sides as you're doing the turn. So it's not easy to do with, again, one monitor. I'm going to try it. I usually am horrible, but I hope we have a better day. So I am going to take off this image, make sure that that's gone. Okay, and then I am going to okay, first I got to find the straight road where we're coming in facing south so that the wind's behind us. So we are south right now. See if I can find a road here. Does this road go? Here we go. So let's just use this one. Okay. So we'll go wings level. The wind is at its greatest. So we want a steep bank. And I'm going to try to pick up altitude here just a bit as I do this. Then we're going to start to level out our wings because we're going to start facing into the wind. Oops, that's ATC. And there's my voice. It's changed. So anyway, okay then. And then as we get ready to, so we're shallowing the bank, and as we get ready, because we're now going into the wind, and as we cross the road, we should be wings level, and then we're going to do a shallow bank now. Let's see how our altitude is. We're going to do a shallow bank. You don't want to go, I know this road's kind of broken. You don't want to go too steep at first, but then as you go around, you're going to start to, yes, I did. You're going to start to steepen your bank. Now the wind is going to start coming behind you. So you're going to get more steep in the bank, more steep in the bank. You're going to start to pick up airspeed. And then when you, I'm losing altitude. Then when you cross the road, your wings level. Now you go into a steep bank because the wind's pushing, it's too steep. The wind is pushing from behind. Plus I need to climb. I think the reason this looks off is I'm losing altitude. I told you it's the hardest one. Let me try to get up. But what's going to happen here, you're going to gradually decrease your bank because you're going to start going into the wind. I need to climb another 100 feet. You see how slowing down now, right? Because we are losing ground speed. And remember, because we're as we cross the road, wings level, we want to go shallow turn. Not too much. I'm trying to keep my eye on the altimeter. It's hard to do. And now we're going to gradually increase our bank, but not too much because the wind, we don't want to push ourselves into the road. Whoops. Lost altitude again. Now, as we get towards the road, the wind's going to start coming behind us to the point where we're going to start gaining ground speed. So we want to go wings level at this point and go into a steep bank on this side. I'm doing these a little better, but not perfect. Oops, except for the altitude. See? And now the wind is wanting to push me off. But as we start to turn, we can start to decrease our bank angle, trying to keep from losing altitude. And we're slowing down. You can see it. You can just actually see the fact that we're slowing down because we're going more and more into the wind, which means, again, we need to shallow our bank because the ground speed is slowing down until we get across the road and level our wings right here, and then go to another shallow for starters to start the next portion of the S. So that is the S turns that you can do across a road. So I encourage you, I'm going to break out of this and hopefully not crash into the That's the other thing is make sure you don't have any obstacles. Not only do you have to worry about traffic, want to make sure you don't S-turn into a wind farm. Uh, and look for obstacles. You might even look at a chart, which is another future topic. So we will get there. But having said that, try those. And it takes a lot of practice. It's hard if you have two monitors and your simulator, whether your simulator's X-Plane, prepared, or here Microsoft Flight Simulator, or even the older FSX, right? If you're using that, whatever your simulator may be, if you have the ability to use two monitors, probably give that a go so you can have one on your altimeter so you can try to maintain altitude and one on, looking outside. But and even probably better than that is to have like a VR headset so you can look around real fast. Uh, that's helpful if you have that, or Track IR, one of those. Um, I think I saw somebody who had the ability, it was on one of the streams, to look around with off of their eyes, which was really cool. So, but whatever you use, that will help make it easier on you as you practice. Look up there, boy! I almost chopped my plane up. So give those give those maneuvers a try and enjoy it. It's a challenging and fun process, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed the stream and see if there's anything else you want to cover, or maybe I forgot. Let me hit the escape just for a second and see. Again, find a flat area. Don't forget to note the elevation at the airport so that you know where you are in relation to the ground. So if you're at, let's say, 500 feet at the airport, for example, and you want to fly 1,000 feet above, you want to know the elevation of the airport so that you can know how high you need to climb and level off at so that you can do your maneuvers. So don't forget to do that. Again, enjoy, and I hope you guys have a great week, and we will do more fun stuff in the next stream. So we will talk to you all then.